The day you decide you don't want to be family, you got to have an asset that you can sell as you move on. What we buy you out, I mean, being realistic here, you guys.
I really just like me tons better not living with them. I loved the culture over my own world. I was a mom. I was confident in being a mom. I want to do whatever I want in my home.
In every long-running reality show, there comes a moment when the mask slips, when the carefully crafted storylines, the picture-perfect homes, and the smiling faces can no longer hide the truth simmering beneath. For Sister Wives, that moment is finally here. Kody Brown-Woolley's memoir, Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom, has cracked open the carefully constructed world of the Brown family and exposed what so many fans long suspected, that behind the cameras, behind the staged dinners and family meetings, lay betrayal, control, greed, and devastating secrets. This isn't just another celebrity book. It's a window into the collapse of one of reality TV's most famous plural families, and into Kody's own journey of survival, awakening, and breaking free. So today, we are diving deep into the memoir's most shocking revelations. From Kody's lack of intimacy and favoritism toward Robyn, to the staged reality of TLC filming, to the church scandals that rocked Kody's faith, this is the story of how Sister Wives unraveled, both on-screen and off. Kody's memoir begins not with glamour, but with disillusionment. She describes in detail how the family's life was built on shaky ground. She loved the cul-de-sac in Las Vegas, a place where each wife had her own house, her own space, and her own sense of control. For once, Kody could feel like the master of her own world. She had confidence as a mother. She could decorate her home, raise her children, and live by her own rules, something not easily achieved in a plural marriage. But even during this time, Kody knew something wasn't right. Her marriage to Kody was fragile. The intimacy, both emotional and physical, was missing. She reveals that Kody admitted he was never truly attracted to her, and this wound cut deeply. Imagine building a marriage, raising children, dedicating decades of your life, only to discover your husband was never committed in the way you believed. It was more than betrayal, it was humiliation. Kody shares that she only realized the depth of this truth when Kody himself decided to write a book with her after the show gained fame. Instead of celebrating their love, he aired his disinterest publicly. For Kody, this was the moment when the facade cracked wide open. Fans of the show always speculated about the relationships among the wives. Were they really friends? Was the sisterhood real? Kody's memoir leaves no doubt. Behind the cameras, the relationships were far more fractured than viewers were led to believe. With Mary, there was virtually no friendship left by the time the cameras started rolling. Their relationship was strained, tense, and cold. With Janelle, while Kody acknowledges moments of cooperation, a symbiotic relationship of sorts, she also admits she often felt controlled and taken advantage of. Kody paints a picture of herself as the family caretaker, someone who was expected to step in whenever another wife or even Kody needed help. She cooked, cleaned, watched children, supported projects, but rarely stood up for herself. For years, she was bulldozed by everyone around her, her kindness mistaken for weakness. And then, of course, there was Robyn. The arrival of Kody's fourth wife marked a turning point that Kody never recovered from. Robyn wasn't just another wife, she became Kody's favorite, his true partner, the woman he coordinated with before speaking on the show, the one whose home was always immaculate for his visits. Kody describes a life where Kody would show up only at night, demand a meal of his choosing, expect the house to be spotless, and leave if the children didn't behave perfectly. The imbalance was stark. Kody was left abandoned, her children overlooked, while Robyn became the unquestioned center of Kody's world. Perhaps the most jarring revelations in Kody's book are not just about her marriage, but about the church she once trusted. Kody writes candidly about how her faith began to unravel. For years, the family avoided publicly discussing their church, citing privacy and fear of backlash. But privately, Kody knew the truth: the leadership was corrupt, abusive, and far from holy. She recalls learning of child abuse allegations within the church. Leaders who were supposed to be men of God, voices of morality, were instead harming the most vulnerable. For Christine, this was the breaking point. How could she possibly seek permission from such men to leave her marriage, when they themselves were guilty of crimes far worse than infidelity or neglect? In her own words, "They had no authority over me, they couldn't even keep their own house clean." The scandals didn't stop there. Christine recounts a lawsuit where leaders of her church were found guilty of embezzling money from an actress, stealing over $1 million. Even after being exposed, the replacement leaders grew stricter, more controlling, demanding superficial rules like haircuts and bans on earrings. It became clear to Christine that these men were not spiritual leaders. They were frauds. For years on Sister Wives, the family defended their church, claiming they were different from the FLDS, not like Warren Jeff's infamous sect. But Christine's memoir shatters that illusion. Behind closed doors, they knew their church harbored darkness, and Christine could no longer ignore it. One of the memoir's most eye-opening sections is Christine's account of how Sister Wives was filmed. To fans, the show appeared spontaneous, candid family dinners, raw conversations, emotional arguments. But Christine reveals just how staged much of it really was. The process was mechanical, big family events were planned in advance, and everything revolved around those moments. Between events, hours of interviews and promotional work filled their schedules. The family wasn't living normal lives, they were living on set. And here's the twist, outside of filming, their relationships barely existed. Christine admits that most of their time together occurred on camera. Off camera, they were distant. And when Kody wasn't filming, he was with Robyn. The illusion of a united, bustling plural family was just that, an illusion. The Browns were, in many ways, co-workers on a reality show, gathering for production but living fractured lives behind the scenes. Beyond the drama of the family and the church, Christine is disarmingly honest about her own struggles. She opens up about an experience with painkillers after knee surgery. For 2 weeks, she used oxycodone, not just for pain but because it made her feel better emotionally. Almost immediately, she recognized the signs of dependency. Even though she stopped quickly, the experience left her shaken. In her community, using substances was considered a sin, an escape from God. For Christine, even this brief brush with dependency felt like failure. But it also revealed something deeper, her vulnerability, her naivety, and the lack of support she had around her. While the world saw Christine as strong and bubbly, inside she was quietly struggling with loneliness, insecurity, and the crushing weight of being not enough for her husband. Taken as a whole, Christine's memoir is more than personal anecdotes. It is an indictment of the system she lived in, of polygamy, of religious hypocrisy, of reality TV fakery, and of a marriage built on lies. She exposes how the Brown family misled viewers, how the church misled its members, and how Kody misled his wives. Each chapter builds toward one conclusion: Christine's decision to break free wasn't just about leaving a marriage. It was about reclaiming her life. Christine writes with both heartbreak and hope. Yes, she was betrayed. Yes, she was humiliated. But she also found freedom to decorate her own home, to raise her children without fear, to build a new life with David Woolley, and to finally share her truth. Christine Brown's memoir may shock fans of Sister Wives, but in truth, it confirms what many have suspected for years. The family's unity was a facade. The love story between Kody and his wives was uneven, conditional, and ultimately unsustainable. And perhaps that's the real lesson of Christine's story, that love without respect, without equality, without honesty, cannot survive. Her memoir is more than gossip, more than behind-the-scenes drama. It's the story of a woman who woke up, who questioned authority, who refused to be manipulated any longer. It's the story of breaking cycles of control, of leaving behind not just a husband, but a whole system of lies. And for viewers who once believed in the dream of Sister Wives, it forces a question. Was this family ever truly about shared love and unity, or was it always destined to fracture under the weight of Kody's choices? If you found this deep dive into Christine Brown's memoir eye-opening, stay with us, because this is just the beginning. As season 20 of Sister Wives premieres, we'll be comparing Christine's revelations with what TLC continues to air. Will the show finally acknowledge the truth, or keep selling the illusion? Subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts in the comments, and tell us, what shocked you most about Christine's story? Was it Kody's betrayal? The church scandals? Or the staged reality of the show itself? Because one thing is certain, Kody Brown's truth has forever changed the way we see sister wives. In her memoir, Kody Brown woolly delivers one of the most chilling revelations. Kody lived by a simple, cruel rule: I move from pain to pleasure. When the situation with Christine became painful, he didn't stop to fix it, he simply walked away. And where did he go? To the place that offered comfort, predictability, and that familiar warmth, with Robyn. Christine recounts the painful words he often hurled at her: I don't love you because you're not lovable. Be more lovable. Imagine carrying that weight, trying, and failing, to meet someone else's ever-shifting expectations. Each time Christine reached the goalposts, they moved further out of reach. And please ask yourself, is that love, or emotional manipulation? While Christine holds Kody accountable for isolating her, she also highlights Robyn's influential role. Robyn, according to Christine, acted as Kody's translator, whispering to him, guide.
You never tried to have really good relationship with these other people. And I'm pissed off.
That's not true.
And it's just
I did.
vomiting out of, sat here with it just like, Christine, try and do this. Renegotiate a relationship with me, but you wouldn't even have a decent one with them.
His responses, and shaping what appeared on camera. Christine poignantly shares that after 2 decades of marriage, she suddenly needed Robyn to speak Kody for him, especially on camera. What viewers saw as heartfelt conversations might have been carefully coordinated behind the scenes, scripted moments masquerading as authenticity. Christine walked into those scenes knowing the silence that followed them wasn't real, it was rehearsed. Kody's obsession with his public persona became another layer of control. Christine notes how he spent hours reading negative online comments, allowing criticism to distort his behavior at home. He began using words like covenant and agreement to frame marriage as a contract, an ultimatum, not a partnership. When Christine spoke up, she wasn't met with conversation, she experienced withdrawal. Husbands don't go to the doghouse in polygamy, she laments, they go to the next wife in the chain. It's a brutal reminder that pleasure, for him, came at her expense. Does it still count as marriage if love can be retracted like that? Drop your take below. The staged nature of sister wives becomes increasingly undeniable through Christine's eyes. Many conversations, breakups, confrontations, revelations, played out multiple times before cameras ever rolled. The infamous announcement of leaving was already communicated to Meri and Janelle. Yet on screen, Meri's shock appeared genuine, a carefully crafted facade. Christine realized that living for the camera meant living in performance. The raw emotion fans saw might have been a manufactured scene. Authentic anguish, repackaged for ratings. Christine pulls no punches when exposing how finances fueled the deception. According to her, Kody and Robyn reaped the majority of financial benefits, while Christine, Meri, and Janelle were kept dangling, romantically and financially, just long enough to remain viable for filming. Christine describes promises of reunion and reconciliation.
Telling my sister wives that I'm leaving Kody. They're all gonna come over and sit down outside, because we can only sit outside 6 feet apart. And I'm leaving. This isn't gonna be a surprise to any of them. It's just not.
To Meri and Janelle, only to secure their financial cooperation. It wasn't just betrayal. It was business. Christine's critics often labeled Robyn as the disruptor. But she argues the real culpability lies deeper, in the system and in Kody. The family's version of polygamy, Christine claims, was far from any ideal, it was preferential, staged, and unsustainable. While the show pushed themes of unity, Christine draws a painful contrast through honesty. Fans have been stunned by one revelation about Christine's honeymoon. She writes of stepping into marriage as a virgin, trusting that Kody, being older and experienced, would be kind and careful. But the reality was traumatic. As she puts it, I wasn't completely clueless, but I was mistaken. There wasn't taking care of me in any way, emotionally, romantically, physically, financially, nothing. There's a broader context often overlooked. Christine was the primary caregiver, raising not just her children but watching over multiple other kids. She admitted, "I got nothing done for years of my life," as she managed diapers, schedules, and routines alone while others worked. Only now are we seeing how exhausting invisible labor can become emotional currency in a plural marriage. Even the romantic gestures carried weight. Christine recalls the Valentine's Day events where Kody would publicly kiss each wife, ritualized affection meant to signal unity. But when he kissed Robyn before their marriage, Christine felt deep jealousy, not cultural acceptance. She said seeing them kiss was devastating. These moments readers and viewers dismissed as show dramatics were actually painful signals of shifting dynamics. Kody destroyed the family by abandoning his wives who were exiting their childbearing years. "I'm definitely going to buy this book. I think she must have PTSD. If this turns out to be a big nothing burger, I will be so disappointed." Combining show footage with her narrative adds context we never saw on. These voices bring the memoir into a living conversation, and remind us that Christine's story isn't happening in a vacuum, but within a collective reckoning about the emotional costs of reality TV, polygamy, and public scrutiny. This section of Christine's memoir exposes not just a marriage unraveling, but a system, one where love is conditional, where media is weaponized, and where the caregiver becomes invisible. It's one woman's reckoning, but it resonates deeply. She was replaced, not just in Kody's life, but in public attention. She was sidelined, silenced, and then finally, she spoke up. Let's unpack this together. Do you see Robyn as a manipulator, or did she play a role in a system that already pushed Christine aside? Was Kody's disappearance into comfort zones inevitable, or was love always tied to performative pleasure? And now, knowing how reality TV can be scripted and staged, does any of it feel authentic anymore? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, your voice matters. Christine's truth has rewritten the story of sister wives, and this conversation is just beginning. When we step back and examine the entire journey of the Brown family, one theme emerges again and again: the tension between idealism and reality. From the very first season of Sister Wives, Kody Brown positioned himself as the man brave enough to live a life that most Americans would never understand. He insisted that his choice of plural marriage was not only a religious calling but also a higher, more noble way of life, one that could provide love, unity, and stability for his wives and children. But reality television has a way of stripping away carefully crafted facades. Over the years, the cracks began to show. The cheerful introductions gave way to confessionals filled with tears, bitterness, and resentment. And while TLC benefited from these emotional explosions, the Browns themselves paid the price. Christine's memoir lifts the curtain on what was really happening behind the scenes. She does not simply recount her personal grievances. Instead, she paints a portrait of a man whose leadership was driven not by spiritual conviction, but by ego, favoritism, and fear of failure. At the center of Christine's disillusionment is the role of religion itself. Raised in a devout fundamentalist Mormon community, she was taught that her worth was tied to her obedience, her modesty, and her willingness to sacrifice. Polygamy, she believed, was the ultimate test of faith, a way to ensure eternal rewards. But over time, Christine began to see the hypocrisy in this teaching. The men in leadership positions wielded power while the women were expected to endure silently. When Kody's intimacy with her disappeared, the message from the church was not to confront injustice but to pray harder, to accept her placement in the family, and to see her suffering as sanctification. This is why her book has struck such a nerve. It is not just about Christine and Kody, it is about the countless women who have felt trapped in systems that preach sacrifice but deliver neglect. Her story becomes a lens through which we see how religion can be used both as comfort and as control. Yet, we cannot discuss Christine's revelations without acknowledging the role of TLC. For over a decade, Sister Wives transformed the Browns into household names. The network marketed them as pioneers, breaking barriers, and challenging stereotypes. But as with many reality shows, drama became the currency. According to Christine, many moments were staged or exaggerated for the cameras. The family dinners, the vacations, even certain arguments were pushed to the forefront because conflict sells. And as conflict grew, TLC leaned in. The network understood that audiences were less interested in the success of polygamy than in its implosion. Every tear Christine shed, every fight over finances, every awkward exchange with Robyn became part of a broader storyline that turned private pain into public entertainment. In this way, the Browns were both beneficiaries and victims. The show gave them financial stability and fame, but it also trapped them in cycles of dysfunction. Privacy disappeared, and the performative nature of their lives made authentic healing almost impossible. No discussion of this family is complete without addressing Robyn, Kody's fourth wife. To some fans, she is the catalyst for the collapse of the Brown household. To others, she is simply a scapegoat, a woman who found herself favored in a system already tilted toward inequity. Christine describes how Robyn's arrival altered everything. Kody's time, energy, and affection shifted dramatically, leaving the other wives, especially Christine and Mary, feeling abandoned. The promise of equal love became a hollow phrase. But was Robyn truly to blame, or was she simply the symptom of Kody's inability to balance four marriages? Christine's book suggests the latter. It was not Robyn's fault that Kody chose to prioritize her, it was Kody's failure to live up to the principles he preached. This nuance is critical. While Robyn has often been painted as the villain by fans, Christine's account reminds us that the deeper betrayal came from Kody's selective application of loyalty, intimacy, and care. Perhaps the most inspiring element of Christine's story is not her suffering but her transformation. For decades, she lived in the shadow of someone else's vision. She followed rules that diminished her sense of self. She endured humiliation, neglect, and isolation. But eventually, she made the radical decision to walk away. Leaving a polygamous marriage is not easy. It means not just separation from a spouse, but often from a community, a culture, and even children who are still under the influence of that system. Yet Christine's courage has inspired millions. Her decision to prioritize her happiness, her mental health, and her dignity became a turning point. Today, she has remarried, embraced a more independent lifestyle, and built a career outside the shadow of Kody. She has shown the world that it is possible to break free from cycles of control and rediscover joy. The release of Christine's memoir has sparked a tidal wave of reactions. Fans flooded online forums, expressing both heartbreak and vindication. For years, viewers suspected that things were not as rosy as Kody claimed. Christine's honesty has confirmed their worst fears. Media outlets, too, have latched onto the story. Headlines frame her revelations as bombshells, while analysts point out the broader implications for how reality TV exploits vulnerable families. TLC, for its part, has remained largely silent, but the pressure is mounting. Can the network continue to air a show that has been exposed as partly fabricated? Or will the lure of ratings outweigh the discomfort of criticism? In the end, Christine's story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sister Wives was never just about love, family, or faith. It was about power. Power in the hands of a patriarch who could dictate intimacy at will. Power in the hands of a church that demanded silence from women. Power in the hands of a network that turned private anguish into primetime drama. But against this backdrop, Christine has reclaimed her own power. By telling her story, she has shifted the narrative. No longer is she simply the third wife in Kody's sprawling household. She is Christine Brown, survivor, author, and symbol of resilience. And that may be the greatest twist of all. For while Kody's image has crumbled, Christine's star has risen. In freeing herself, she has also freed countless others who see themselves in her journey. As viewers, we must ask ourselves, why do we watch shows like Sister Wives? Is it curiosity? Is it entertainment? Or is it the deeper human fascination with lives that look so different from our own? Christine's memoir challenges us not just to consume, but to reflect. Behind every dramatic storyline lies a real person, with real pain. And sometimes, the most powerful act of rebellion is simply to tell the truth. So as the dust settles, one thing becomes clear, The Browns may have built their legacy on polygamy, but Christine's true legacy is something far more enduring: the courage to walk away from a life that no longer served her, and to step boldly into a future she chose for herself.